I have a bride right now that she is spending a lot of money.
Sure.
And the way they are treating her is so absolutely insane to me.
You don't want to spend $30,000-$40,000 on a wedding, which many do, but you'd rather invest that money elsewhere. So that's one of the reasons why weddings are becoming smaller.
I become a whole different person when I can't find parking. Like I have this rage inside of me.
Sometimes I just leave.
I do too.
I went to.
I will circle, and I'm like, I'm going to circle one more time, and if I don't get one, I'm leaving.
Jackie.
Clay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I washed my hair for you today. Yeah, I'm so excited with the direction it's heading. We are having so much fun with our guests, having so much fun talking, figuring out podcast life.
Yeah, I know. Podcast life is pretty amazing. Sorry I called you so early this morning. I couldn't sleep. I was too excited to get to the third podcast.
The 7:30 a.m. calls and texts. I literally had to lay Jackie, the line down.
When you reach 40, you really need to check on your friends. You don't know if they've dropped dead or if they're, hungover from the night before from tequila.
I've really cut back on that. I only drink on the weekends these days. I can't function I go from 0 to 60. I can't go out during the week and have 2 drinks. There's no point for me. So drinks. It's if I'm going to go out and have some fun, it's not going to be during the week. And I have to run a business.
So what are we going to talk about today? I think that, what are your thoughts? Should we talk about what we kind of touched on and in the first episode, and that was really how to build a wedding venue, how to be successful in the wedding venue business, because it is challenging and there is a lot of competition now.
There is a lot of competition, and I feel like it, you look back 20 years ago in Milwaukee and there was 20 venues maybe that you would get married at. And
I think you're right about that.
10 of them downtown Milwaukee, it was the hot places to be. And I think people in my generation are I don't want to sit in an office. I don't want to work for the man. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to bust my ass and see where it can get me. And I think there's so many people in Milwaukee that have been so incredible with working together, because we are such a small but large community that everyone's willing to help each other and refer. And, referral is a huge part of business.
Exactly, 100%. But that's a small city. When we go into larger cities, the competition is more fierce. You don't have that camaraderie between wedding venues. You're kind of just out there on your own. I know that, let's get back to building a wedding venue and what that entails. Obviously there's different facets within one company, in building that company. But I think the number one thing you have to have in this industry is passion.
100%.
100%. If you don't have the passion for having a wedding venue or venues or how many you own or how many you're going to open or operate, there's no reason for you to go into.
And I think that's
no reason to just go in for the money. The money will follow.
Yes. And I think that's any part of the wedding industry in general.
True.
Even looking at my part of the industry in fashion and design, that's the same thing. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Milwaukee had a handful of bridal shops, and now it's so many entrepreneurs. Yeah. And so I think it's great, but it's also, that can be so confusing to brides of where do I start? Where do I begin? So I think the biggest takeaway from getting engaged and where you start is honestly talking to your friends, seeing who they recommend for vendors. And don't just talk to one friend. You don't have to use their vendors, but talk to multiple people and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is my vibe. Who do you recommend?
Right. Exactly. So let's go back to, let's shift gears and go into actually building a venue. What are the first things that one needs to do? The first one is we talked about, just talked about having passion, being passionate for what you want to do.
100%.
And I'm very passionate, have been. I talked a little bit about owning women's stores for many years. I love helping women. I like seeing their success. I like all the gossip, obviously, that goes with knowing a lot of women at one time. You get the best gossip. And then, that kind of just took me into the wedding business. And the first thing you want to do is to find the right space in the right area.
Which we did talk about going on our buddy Craigslist.
Right.
Craigslist.
We talked a little bit about Craigslist, and I still am going to stick with that. Craigslist is how I found every single one of my venues that I own. And I own 4 of them.
And once you start the wedding venue and get your licensing and businesses, how do you even start advertising to say, "Hey, I'm open"?
Let's back up to actually finding the venue. And I again, talking a little bit about it in the first podcast is either finding a space and leasing it for a long period of time. I would definitely suggest 5 years minimum, so that at least you could recoup the investment that you made back and make a good profit over the 5 years.
100%.
Second is the location. The location is a pretty top priority, and parking is really important too. Not necessarily, free parking, but how close is parking? That really will define and open your market larger.
Oh, 100. I become a whole different person when I can't find parking. Like I have this rage inside of me.
Sometimes I just leave.
I do too.
I went to...
I will circle, and I'm like, I'm going to circle one more time, and if I don't get one, I'm leaving.
One of my friends invited me to their wedding in Chicago. I will say acquaintances about 10 years ago. And I was in Chicago for 3 days, and I thought, okay, I'll just go. It was kind of on a whim. She's like, just come by, have fun. You know a lot of people, and a few of my friends were going there. And I went there, and I couldn't find parking, and the lots were full. The 3 lots that were right there. There was, a huge convention in town, and I'm like, fuck, screw it.
Yeah.
And I left. So,
yeah.
Parking is the key. And the next thing is, do you want to rent or do you want to buy? Buying a building is definitely the way to go. Then you don't have to worry about, the building being sold by the landlord or the building being condemned, which can happen. Small chance, but it can. And then the next step is, how are you going to build that business? Where are you going to draw your clients from? Personally, myself, and I do recommend this to anybody going into the wedding venue business. I never was in the business before. I never worked for a wedding venue. Just like when I owned clothing boutiques, I never worked for them, but I educated myself. The first thing I did was I went to Chicago. I didn't want to do it here because I had too many close friendships here, and I know a lot of the venue owners in Milwaukee. So I went to Chicago, and I kind of went, call it undercover. I went to about 5 or 6 different wedding venues, huh?
It's called recon.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went to 5 or 6 wedding venues, and I kind of was like, hey, blah blah blah, and kind of just observed how they were to me. And I have to say, out of the 6 people, 4 of the people that I met with, I'm like, oh my God, how are they successful with this attitude? So that kind of leaves me in with attitude too.
That's the biggest thing. I have a bride right now, and I'm not going to mention the businesses' names in Chicago, that she is spending a lot of money.
Sure.
And the way they are treating her is so absolutely insane to me.
Is it a Chicago venue then?
It's not the venue. It's where she purchased her dress and a couple other vendors.
Got it.
It is just mind-blowing to me. I think the biggest thing to me has been always, and I feel like I'm middle-of-the-road pricing.
Right.
She's like, you have treated me better than this store, this vendor that I've spent thousands of dollars in. And I just said to her, I think the biggest thing when you are a bride and even a groom is that this is supposed to be the best day. And to lead up to it, to have all that stress from somebody you are paying for to do a service for you, just mind boggles me. And it still happens in this industry.
1,000%.
They treat people like, oh, well, we're highest in the business. We fit you in on our schedule. It's like, no, this is your client. Well, you're getting money from them. Treat them like a celebration.
Sure. And you know what? That's going to happen in any city.
It's crazy to me.
And that's, in a bigger city like Chicago or New York or California, LA, San Diego. Well, no, San Diego's a small city, but, it doesn't matter how people are to other people, clients, et cetera, because there's so much business that they never have to really worry about.
But how do these people stay in business?
It survives. But what I do know is that in Milwaukee, we live in a very small city. And fortunately, I've been lucky enough to know so many women in the city from having clothing stores that, I always just have to, my customer service has to be on par. And that's what I talked about before. And I'll probably talk about it over and over again. Customer service is the number one key. So the next thing to building a business, you find your space that you want. And I definitely say minimum square footage for a space. Now mine are larger, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 square feet would be 3,000, 3,500.
How many people can you get for that?
So you can fit, I would say capacity goes up to like 125.
For 3,000?
Yeah, for 3,000 square feet. So, which is great because nowadays the numbers went from, I remember back when I started with my first venue, it was always 200, 250.
Yeah.
Now it's dropped from 200, 250 down to 100 to 150.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the trend has changed with
Craigslist? I was going to get into that too. One of the big things is I think that COVID has a lot to do with it. Our financial climate that we're in right now in this day and age. Couples are getting married older, I feel. It's changing. People are going to grad school. They're buying a house after, they're having kids. I can't tell you how many couples, and you probably have friends as well, Jackie,
I have
that
friends.
are mine, that have kids
friends.
before they get married nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing too, I look
mean,
back.
you have all this to pay, and you don't want to spend $30,000-$40,000 on a wedding, which many do, but you'd rather invest that money elsewhere. So that's one of the reasons why weddings are becoming smaller.
Well, and I think you look back at your 20s and look at your friend group, and it's like, I don't even talk to half those people anymore.
Right.
Where people would get married
I
after
definitely
college.
don't. Yeah.
I do have
I have a
friends
few.
that are like,
Right.
long, but I'm saying like your circle of who you would go out with on a Friday or Saturday night versus who you'd invite to your like wedding now. I mean, me being 43 years old, I'm like, okay, I just want the people who are close. And I think your mindset changes too.
1,000%. So the wedding industry, and I've been reading current articles too, just about the wedding industry where it's just changed. I mean, people aren't spending, wealthy people are spending, but the middle class is not spending that $30,000, $40,000 on weddings like they were a few years ago. And, that brings me to how I navigate and run my company. Mm-hmm. When I went into this business, my concept was creating an affordable venue, but creating a venue that is just as great as a venue that you pay $15,000 to walk into. As beautiful, great lighting, top of the line, design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just really giving the client something, a bang for their buck, basically.
So what would you
kind of like the Airbnb of venues?
And what would you say your average price range is for all your venues?
For my venues, the sales average price range is probably $4,000, $4,500. Okay. Yeah, which is right in the niche of the market. I really am not here to talk about my venues. I'm really talking about building a venue.
Yeah.
But
it's good to have an idea of what a mid-range price of a wedding is anywhere, especially for people who are wanting to start in a different city. Like, hey, what pricing do I even start with?
Exactly. And a lot of venues, it's like, okay, let's rate them, let's charge them, huge minimums on a Saturday. Let's charge them $10,000 to walk in the door. Let's charge them for tables and chairs, blah 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 blah. That's great. That works. And there's many couture venues like that in Milwaukee that are very successful. But
your business model is different.
I see the climate changing.
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I see it changing. I see it because I speak to people all the time that would book a very high-end wedding venue 5-6 years ago, and they're not doing it now.
And they're different clients.
The climate change.
Yeah, for sure.
People want to spend a minimum amount of money, and one of the biggest things that's happening is to do it yourself. And I am concerned for friends of mine that are in the decor business. The decor business is definitely taking a shift with Pinterest and TikTok and everything. And then you just told me about this Chat CPG. Yesterday, I'm kind of late to the game. I don't know what the hell it was.
You sound like my boyfriend.
She usually gives me porn
GPT.
site names, but she gave me this one.
GPT.
Yeah, right. Dude, it sounds dirty regardless, however
but
you say
I
it.
also think that there's a lot of people who get a general idea and don't want to take care of it themselves.
This is true,
so they're
but my
they
point
give it to the planner.
Is that with the AI nowadays, you just pop in a blank room and there you go. It's decorated for your wedding. And so for the cost-conscious bride, or even a bride that wants to spend, maybe, $15,000 on her food and kind of drop the cost for the decor, she'll do it herself. So, things definitely are changing in the industry. And I read more and more articles I get from the websites that I do business with, like Zola, Here Comes the Guide, which I do highly recommend. It's affordable, and it's an affordable investment that builds your clientele very quickly. But there'll always be high-end venues, but for me, my concept works, and I would recommend anybody going into the business that you create an affordable concept, because those type of businesses always survive a recession.
100%. And I think too, that's the beauty of having a range of pricing and venues for people, because not everybody can afford the $100,000 wedding, and that's okay.
1,000%.
So a
lot of people don't want to pay the $100,000 wedding,
and you have to do what works for you. For me, I want to have a vision. I would, as creative as I am, I think I'd be like, hey, this is my vibe, but I would want someone else to do it to me.
Jackie,
not do it to me, do it for me.
Hold on, I almost completely forgot about this. I have a question, and before we run out of time, I want to ask you this question, then we'll go back to what you were saying. So, you're getting married.
Not me personally, but this is a hypothetical.
Hypothetical question. You're getting married.
No ring.
The day is here. How about this? You're the matron of honor. The bride is all ready. The wedding starts in exactly 45 minutes. You're sitting, taking a breather with the bride. She's crying, she's smiling, she's crying, she's smiling, she's crying, she's smiling, which pretty much happens an hour before the wedding starts.
Okay.
Gets a call. The fiance's in jail.
Okay, what did he do?
We don't know. What we do know is that he's detained and the wedding is called off.
For sure.
For sure.
I personally, are you saying if it was me or if I was the maid of honor?
If you were the maid of honor,
I'd be like,
or the bride.
I'd be like, girl, his bad decisions put him in jail. Let's still have the party. Obviously, we're not going to have the full, have the church, whatever. But I would say the venue is already paid for. The day of, the venue person's not going to be like, oh, here, have your money back. Let's be real. I would still first of all, I would find out what happened. Okay, let's be real. I would find out what happened. I would probably go to the jail, obviously, with the bride. But I would encourage all the guests.
In your bride, in your gown?
Why not?
To the police station?
I wouldn't have the bride go to her gown. I'd say, girl, change, get.
Or bring the officiant with you?
No, hell no.
We're done. Do the ceremony there?
The ceremony's done for the day, but you already paid for everything. So I tell all the guests, there has been a delay in the wedding. We'll let you know at the different day, because they don't need all the deets. It doesn't need to be going on Snapchat and everything. Go to the venue, have yourself a good time. The food's already there. Everything's paid for.
Okay, fair enough.
Go have a good time. If we can make it later, we'll make it. And if not, you have the place till midnight.
Would you think the venue should rebook their date?
Yes, but at an additional cost. I mean, it's not the venue's fault. Or if you want to give them a discounted rate, on a Friday, fine. But that's I don't know. I personally, they're a business too. They have to run a business. And by someone's decision, obviously a poor decision landed them in jail. So how is it the venue's fault? Coming from a business owner. Now, as a bride, I want for them to give a little bit of a discount, because they feel bad for me that my soon-to-be husband made a bad decision on our wedding day.
Sure.
However, I wouldn't expect it.
He had an extended police record.
You play, you pay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Clay, I have a question for you.
Ask me. Oh, God. I hate when you ask these questions because I know they're going to be insane.
It's actually not that insane.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
What would your sitcom title be if you had your own show? And I'm asking you this is because you've been texting me, oh my gosh, what if we get our own show? What if we get our own show? I'm talking about like a sitcom. You have a comedy writer that wants to write a show about your life. What would you title it?
Clay's Closet.
Oh,
how's that? Clay's Closet.
I like it. It's a vibe.
I know.
I'm here for it.
I know. I can come out again.
I think that would get
But
high
Clay's Closet,
viewership.
I think it's a great show, and all about my personal life, the things that people want to hear.
Would
the
you rather
stories.
have a sitcom or would you rather have a reality show?
Oh my God, I think I'd really have a reality show. I mean, my dream, and I think I've shared this with you before.
Like 25 times on text at
is
midnight.
to have a team of people, and I'm hoping that I can get Bree, our wonderful camera person, to do this, to follow us around for like 3 months at my venues and just the life of a wedding owner. There's no TV show like that. I guess I just shared with the whole who's ever on my TikTok to start a TV show like that, a reality show. But
yeah, because there's like say yes to the dress, but they don't show like behind the stresses as
right.
I mean, even being a designer, I always say when we go to Chicago Market, there is so much hot tea and gossip people are talking about in their booths with this, that, everyone.
My God, there's so much hot gossip. I mean, there is so much that happens every single day. So back to, we're talking about the wedding venue, and I was talking about Zola, and here comes a guide, and the next thing that you need to do is I have never waited till I complete renovation to show my venue. My first venue.
So do you have like a rendering?
I didn't even have a rendering.
Okay.
I had a very descriptive communication about what my space would look like.
Well, now you have Chat GPT to help you.
Have Chat. Yeah, this is like prehistoric. And that was only 8-9 years ago.
You're only
right?
24 hours into Chat GPT.
Can you say that again? Talk dirty to me.
Well, like what? Like
Chat GBG.
No, it's Chat GPT.
It sounds dirty. I'm sorry. It just sounds.
How
dirty.
are we going to get you to remember? Like
going? I don't know. But so what were we were talking about the venues? Yeah. So designing the venue. As soon as I would sign a lease with all my venues, I literally shot out all my advertising, marketed it, and already had clients looking at my space within 5-7 days.
Well, and I think the great thing about yours is they're like a blank canvas where they can do whatever they want. They can bring in whatever they want.
True. So when it comes to the marketing aspect of things, people are always like, how are you so busy? Like, how are you busy every single weekend? You have no openings for this year or next year. Why are you booking so much? And these are people in the industry, not necessarily that own wedding venues, because most of the Milwaukee ones are very successful. But these are other vendors in the industry. I said, well, the marketing is key. It truly is key, and the communication and constantly talking with vendors and utilizing people in the industry that will talk about your business with other people.
100%.
And that's what people don't do. They're so engulfed in what they're doing that they forget that
there's a
they
community
need to do all their
that'll
marketing
support.
and PR, right? That's how they're going to make money. And so Wedding Wire and the Knot, don't do it. If anybody's listening, don't do it. The biggest scam in the world. In the world, it is the biggest scam. I remember advertising with them when I opened up my first venue.
Oh, boy.
And it was fantastic.
Allegedly, they're the biggest scam.
No, hold on. Allegedly the biggest scam. I could get sued. Sorry, Wedding Wire and the Knot, but since you
allegedly
merged, I don't trust you. So I thought to myself, I was advertising, and my business partner for 3 venues, she's like, Clay, are we getting anything from there? And I kept saying, yeah, we are. And we get like 1 out of every 20 client that looking at it. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? Every time somebody sends me an email through Wedding Wire or the Knot, I'm going to say, congratulations, you won a complimentary wedding. That's exactly what I did. Not one person respond.
What?
Not one. So therefore, I realized
they're bots.
That they're buying leads. Yeah, they're fake leads. And they were, and if you go to their
Am
pages,
I naive? I'm just like mind blown right now.
Yeah,
For real?
1000%. Yeah, very much so. And they won't tell you that, but I would say, and I'm not going to say, and allegedly, from my experience, but if you go to the reviews and you
That is
research
like brilliant,
them,
Clay.
and you find out. Well, I needed to get to the bottom
And we'll
of it
give you
because I needed-
$10,000. Give us your banking account information
in
today.
marketing, it is so important to test things. You
Oh.
have to test things, and you have to spend the money to do it. And if it works and it's successful, great. Keep spending the money. Wedding Wire the Knot didn't, and I did it. I did it probably 10 or 15 times. I'd be like, okay, you want to compliment your wedding, or you come compliment your caterer. And if they did message me back, I'd say, great, let's do it. You want a complimentary wedding?
Did they ever,
I was
though?
fine. Never one. And it just showed me that it was false. And there was no phone number attached. So as soon as they merged, I said, and people really need to know this in the industry. 'Cause
No,
this
I
is my
agree.
experience. When they merged the Wedding Wire and the Knot, you used to get phone numbers for the Wedding Wire and no phone number for the Knot. I thought that was very odd. And now when they merged, you might get phone numbers 10% of the time. I think that's really odd when you have no phone number attached to a lead. Especially with somebody that is researching. So anyway, cutting it short, because we just have a few
You're
more
real
minutes left.
passionate about this.
Very passionate. So anyway, so then I tested Zola, and here comes the guide. Definitely highly recommend them. They're exceptional. The leads are fantastic from them. You might not get a lot, but you get the quality. And then Facebook and Instagram marketing and Google. It's the way
And
to do it.
referrals just by word of mouth.
Yeah,
is huge.
and word of mouth is number one too. I've been in business long enough that I do get a lot of repeat clients, not clients, but business from their friends, family, etc. But spending the money on Facebook marketing, and if you have the right person doing your marketing for
you think Facebook marketing works?
1,000%.
Okay.
1,000.
I've done Instagram, Facebook.
For the wedding
I've seen
venue
lights.
business. Maybe not for others, because once a bride says I do, they go into bride mode. And bride mode is 24/7. Half the time they can't even sleep.
It's true.
They have
I've
to get
had
a bottle of
brides.
sleeping pills a day just so they could sleep and
I've
not
had
think
brides-
about their wedding.
Legit. I've had brides
True,
say
right?
to me after the
It's
wedding,
true.
they're like, I don't even know what to do with my time
Right,
now.
right. So anyway, it works. So they go into mode. So they're on Facebook. They're on. Excuse me, my God, what the hell was that?
Oh my God, was that a fly?
I
Clay?
don't know what's going on.
You
But
catching
anyway,
flies?
I don't know. Maybe I'm dying.
I don't think that's true.
No, that's not true. So anyway, bride goes into bridal mode. She's on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and she's clicking. She's always clicking stuff about brides. So my ads keep coming up on the pages, and I get leads after leads after leads. But again,
Interesting.
you have to have somebody that's extremely proficient in that area, know what they're doing, targeting the demographic, and you have to make sure you know it too. No matter who you hire for marketing and PR, you have to know everything that they're doing and how they do it. Because if suddenly they pass away tomorrow, you have to be able to take that place of that person right away.
100%.
And do it. So that's the next step, the marketing. And then, there's so many other facets. Like you said, word of mouth is so important. But I think that we'll probably get into additional areas of the venue business, such as what goes on behind the scenes and how do we create
How do you handle
consistent
crisis?
vendor business? How do we create a consistent venue business and keep it consistent? That's the key, not just having 1 or 2 weddings a month and just surviving, becoming successful in it.
Have you ever had a moment where you think you would want to do something different, or you think you
Never.
Okay.
I love what I do, and I'm doing something different right now. I'm sitting with you.
Yeah,
and you look
true.
absolutely fabulous. We've had an amazing day so far.
I love it.
I got your ass out of bed at 7:30.
Actually, no, I was on Do Not Disturb.
Okay, you
I
were.
rage text and then I went back to bed.
Okay, good. Well, anyway, let's wrap this up and let's chat next podcast and talk more in depth about building a wedding venue and how we can be successful. And I'll give our audience a lot more great tools to do so.
Awesome.
And I love you dearly.
I love you dearly. Looking forward to chatting again. And we have to let everybody know that we can be followed on TikTok and Instagram so you can see good outtakes.
And if you want to see Jackie's close-up outtakes, we can find her on OnlyFans.
That's
I'm
not
kidding.
That's not a true story. Feet Finder.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Wedding Files. Bye.